Good morning, I'm Ranger Dave for West Valley Rural, and a while back I did another video on our probate issues, and my wife thought I should do another update or at least explain the process a little better. We received a lot of emotional support from a lot of folks on social media and various places, friends and family. And it seemed like some of them just did not understand completely what we were going through, and why. Why was it we just didn't just essentially wash our hands of the situation and take the easy route? The easy route would have been just to wash our hands of it and wait for our check. Well, there were a number of reasons, and those involve people and places. And I hope to identify some of that and explain some of, especially, Kathleen's frustration and all of that. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to walk through each of the houses, so to speak, and give a little bit of the history behind each of these three homes that we're dealing with, Kristy's part in it, and why we fought so hard. So let's get started. All right, this is the Bowie home. We call it Bowie home, Bowie, because it's on Bowie Avenue. But this is the first home that Kristy bought and renovated. It's a very unique home. It's almost like two homes in one, because there's this door that you can close off, and it's almost like a duplex. But she bought this and renovated it. This was in our probate situation, this was the easiest home to handle, because we have a long-time friend of the family that's currently renting it. And one of the reasons we really fought so hard is because essentially Kristy promised this home for as long as the lady wanted to live there ever, until when she died. An older lady, but yeah, we wanted to honor that, and she pays the rent covers almost all the expenses for this home, so we only had to come up with making sure the power bill got paid for, and because I think she, if I remember correctly, she pays the rent and the water. But it's a nice area of Galveston. It's got a really nice backyard to it as well. She has a nice dog. But Mandy's her name, and yes, we wanted to make sure we took care of Mandy, because had this gone south, had we just washed our hands of the probate situation, well, Mandy might have had to move, and we really did not want that to happen. She's a good lady. So yeah, this is the Bowie home. This is the first home that Kristy renovated, and she lived here for a piece of time, and then she moved on to the Avenue P project, which I'll also be showing you. Okay, behind me is Avenue P, the home we call Avenue P. This was the second home that Kristy bought and renovated. And how she bought this, she essentially bought the home, and it also had renters to the upstairs. So she bought it with renters in it, and it was an okay condition, but needed a lot of upkeep. It's in the historic district, and it's within short walking distance of the seawall and the pleasure pier. It's, in fact, right in front of it is the service yard for the pleasure pier. But essentially, she bought it and she started renovating the bottom end. She lived there with her favorite roommate, John, our good man here, and they both worked on that. And then later on, the upstairs was made available when the renters moved out, and then she essentially started renovating the upstairs. And what she did initially was lived in the bottom end and rented out the top end as an Airbnb. And then later on, she essentially, that's how she was able to afford and to get the Denver home, which was going to be the main home And this being so close to the historic district as well as the beach and the pleasure pier is what we managed to, for 3 months, keep that fully booked. And that's what kept us in the black for a few months after Kristy died. This home will have to be sold, and we met with the realtor today, and she does believe that it will sell at the price we're looking for, and relatively quickly. So that would be really helpful if that happened. But I took a little bit of video on the inside when we were there with the realtor, and you'll see how nicely done Kristy did on the inside as well. There's a lot of work went into that, but whenever we ever talked about the Avenue P home, this is the home we were talking about.
I don't know. He's just freaky. So.
Upstairs is Avenue P.
And there was no coffee because he used all the coffee from the last time I bought coffee there. We were there in October. There was no coffee. And John's like, I'm not buying no coffee because he doesn't buy any coffee. But he drinks it and he uses it.
You stayed here. Just waiting our turn.
It's 1:30, and I said yes. So she didn't say she was on her way, but that was like at 12. So she's probably on her way from Houston.
Just as long as she's not late.
Yeah. She's supposed to be here too. Oh, Lordy. Because I need to find out what, if anything, is in those accounts. So there's more left.
Well, it's done. Got the letters, and now it's a process of paying everybody and getting the estate sorted out. Do a will, do a trust, do something, because you don't want to have to do this. It's been a long road, and we're glad it's over with.
Well, and the other part of that.
All right, I'm doing this section of the video to kind of explain some of the mountain of paperwork that you could be left with. And again, we had to deal with 3 homes. And
who takes care of your kids if you don't have
again, think about who's going to take care of your kids if you don't have some of this stuff done. So I'm just going to, this is the letter that we've needed. This is public record, but this is the letter that gives you access to, when the deceased is deceased, who gets to be in charge. And if essentially you do not have a will or a trust, then of course this is what probate's all about. Kathleen is the court independent administrator of the estate. And this is what we had to, everybody, what letters do you need? This is the letter we need. This is what we can send to credit cards, mortgage companies, anybody that's, has a vested interest. That they won't talk to you. Nobody will talk to you until you have this letter. How we've been able to manage all this stuff is we still kept our phone alive. And we were fortunate and we were able to access that phone. A lot of people essentially, well, you know, they put all their passwords on their phone. That's it. Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. But do you know the password to the phone?
And does someone else have your password keeper password?
Yeah, the password keeper password. I mean, it's great to have a password on your phone, all your passwords on your phone, but if nobody knows the password to access your phone, well, we were fortunate and we got lucky on guessing, and essentially we were able to access a lot of things via that phone. And so that phone was kept alive. We're in the process now of essentially, we're going to have to be selling Avenue P, so we're going to be meeting with a realtor, and we're getting some market summaries of its value. Some of the interesting things that we had learned the hard way is all the utilities. You know, you got different utility. You would think, you know, Arizona, you have APS or SRP. Well, that's not Arizona. You have any number of utility companies in Texas, and they're not utility companies per se. They're middlemen. They're they're companies that buy the power from the power companies and then sell it to you for a profit. So, and essentially, it gives you any number. I mean, one of the Avenue P was the power got shut off because she had just recently, just before she died, switched power companies, and we thought we were paying the power company, and what we were paying was the previous power company, and we did not know what the actual power company was until we got a late notice, and then of course we had to pay up what was owed, and then had to get back the money that we had paid for the other power company. It was crazy, yeah. So that's one of the issues. You know, paying utilities, keeping the lights on. We have a couple. We have you know, one of the houses a rental. We had to keep the a light on for that lady. Lights on, so yeah, you got, you know, different power companies. Different utility companies. You had to pay the insurances. You had to pay the, you know, and Texas, especially Galveston, there is a crazy amount of insurance policies because of its location, because it's in a hurricane zone. And so that's one of the reasons that some people just cannot afford to live on the island, because of all the insurance companies that you have to pay for. And so we had a good insurance guy that essentially is a friend of the family, and he was very helpful in ways that good thanks to him, we were able to get through that. Then you got the different essentially mortgage companies. One of the homes is on Cornerstone, and essentially Cornerstone, horrible people. They would call you every day. They have called that phone every single day since Kristy died, or until they found out that Kristy died, and essentially call you.
When the bills started becoming past due, because we couldn't pay the mortgages.
Right. We couldn't pay the mortgages, so we're behind on a couple of the mortgages. So we'll be able to catch up on that. But they have called that phone every single day, and then you pick it up, and they won't talk to you. So essentially, they make no record. They make absolutely no record. It's just like they pick up the phone, person's deceased, and say, we're trying to collect the debt, and we're not going to talk to you. So they call you every day to tell you we're not talking to you. I mean, that's crazy, but that has been a daily.
They wouldn't even take the lawyer's information.
Yeah, they wouldn't even. That's true. Kathleen said they wouldn't even take the lawyer's information. So essentially, they're filling in their bubble. But essentially, it turns into almost harassment every day, and just to say hello, good morning, and we're not talking to you. It's just nuts.
You're a bad debt person.
Yeah,
but we're not
just every day to remind you, you owe us money. Yeah. Pay up. But yeah, so this is the mountain of bills, and a lot of
portion of the mountain.
Portion.
Bills.
This is a
There's
small
like 3
portion.
of them.
Yeah, because you have this kind of bills and this for every single home in 3 homes, and then some of the we just didn't know who to pay. You just didn't know who to pay until more than a couple of cases till you got late payments or late notices. Then you got to make up the late notices and then get current to keep the lights on, and that's how you just so. These are the things that you need to put in a file, not only get your end of life things done, but also if you pass, who does your family pay? I mean, so organization is important even on this kind of level. You know, say you pass and you become an executor. Well, okay, great. Now who do you pay? So we essentially had to create a breadcrumb trail. We really, almost literally, I had bills laid all out for several days, laid all out on the floor, trying to create a breadcrumb trail to find out who she paid and when. Now, so this is something to consider. If you passed on, does anybody in your family know who to pay? Okay, so again, hopefully people take that lesson. We got the letter. Thankfully, we had the phone, and we now know who to pay. And that's all part of it. This is the Denver home. This is the 3rd home that Kristy essentially bought and renovated. It was the last home that she did. It was essentially, she lived in her renovation for a mere 6 months. She had essentially had the housewarming party. This is in Denver court, and it's one of the nicer areas of the island. Kristy always wanted a house that would never flood on Galveston, Texas, and this home, being here for a very long time through many storms, it has never flooded. So that was one of the issues that she kind of wanted for a house in Galveston that just didn't flood. And so she found it. She bought it a little bit on the high side, but still she was able to, with renovations, get a pretty good amount of equity in it. Problem was, and that was one of the things we discovered when we got here, we had to pay for these funeral expenses, and essentially, well, you kind of look for a credit card. Well, to get all this renovation done as quickly as she did, she literally leveraged everything. I mean, her credit cards essentially had pennies on them available. I mean, really, how she managed to take some of these credit cards down to their last dollar, it's crazy. The girl was smart. At the same time, she was essentially going to be starting to, she got the job done. It's a beautiful home inside. This will have to be turned into a rental. I mean, the back end was turned into, her purpose was to rent out the back portion, and the back portion is separate from the house itself, and is a nice, for a short period of time, an Airbnb. And got some good ratings and all, but we've had to shut that down essentially because we're going to have our resident, John, that was her longtime roommate here at this house, and he's going to move into the back area and stay kind of as our man on the man in Galveston. That's all the time, John. I don't know how we would have been able to do all this without John. So John was a godsend. He literally was. Good man, longtime friend of the family, and just a good man. So special thanks to him that we were able to do this and survive. If you ever had a probate case and you got properties in other states, you need a reliable person on the scene. You just do. Find that friend in that area. And that friend in the area was John. And so special thanks to him getting us through all this. But essentially, Kristy leveraged herself to the hilt on this house. It's again, it's beautiful inside. She had to do not too much on the outside, but it's a beautiful area. It has some equity in it, and the family to save her legacy. Their purpose was to save, if anything, save this house. And so that's been one of our goals, because this was her dream house. This is the one that she wanted for herself and for the family. And we are going to be able to save it. And it very much looks like we are going to be able to save it. We will have to, at least for a period of time, turn it into a rental, which we're told that it should rent relatively easily. And we'll have John stay in the back. He's going to live in the Airbnb section in back. So we'll essentially always have some access to the home. And we'll have John always on scene here to look after it for us and to keep tabs on whoever we wind up renting. So this home was Kristy's legacy, her legacy home, the home that she always wanted, and we do want to keep it in the family. And thankfully, with things resolving the way that they have, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it seems it will work out, and we will always have at least one home in Galveston. And maybe one day it won't be a rental, and the family will be able to come here year after year after year and remember Kristy. She put her stamp on this home, and we wanted that stamp to stay. And let's go ahead and go inside. Yep, that's home. There's your half bath back there. When Kristy bought this home hadn't been touched probably since the 1950s or 1960s. It had, like so many unfortunate homes, the 1970s, people carpeted these nice floors. So this is the main room. That in between those two built-ins, that was open to that back area. That's now the room addition. They had that completely open, and that was your pathway through to the other room. That's when we closed that off, and again, that's being made into that was made into the Airbnb section there. But she had to put new fans. She had to essentially rip up carpet, get these floors in decent condition. She did all this entryway brickwork. This is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The stairs, as in 1970s fashion, had carpet. Yeah, so all that had to be done. The shiplap, I know she would, at the time we were here, she was debating on whether that should be painted or not. And I just didn't want her, I like natural wood, but so at the very top, she left a section, kind of show the natural shiplap. Built in there. She was able to keep some of the, all through the house. She tried, and in many places, she just had a knack for knowing what should stay and what should go. So excuse the mess, since we're just passing through. Some of this furniture is John's, and some of it belongs to Kathleen and Kristy's grandmother. But she just had a knack for what should stay and what should go. The kitchen, original kitchen countertop. Rather than a lot of people tear out the original cabinetry, I think she exercised good wisdom in keeping a lot of it. But upstairs it has 3 bedrooms. The master bath, well, let's just say it's enormous. Yeah, the master bath essentially is as large as some bedrooms. That's how big it is. I won't bother to show that, but has the original tile on that bathroom, and a lot of the original fixtures were working. But she was able to keep. She just had a natural knack to know what should stay and what should go when doing a renovation, and managing to make it happen. We're in the back area of the Denver home, and we always call it the Denver home because it's in Denver Court, and it's funny how some people kind of get confused by that when we reference the Denver home, because people always say, I thought that home was in Galveston. Well, it's Denver Court, and it is Denver Court. Everybody on Galveston knows Denver Court. It's one of the nicer areas on the island, and it doesn't flood, and which is unique on Galveston Island. Everybody always thinks everything on Galveston floods. No, there's a few areas that they come real close, but they don't flood. So again, that's one of Kristy's goals, was to find a house that did not flood. Well, I'm in the back area of the Denver home, and as you can see, you have the original part of the home, but over time, again, I'm not familiar with the exact dating, but the owners of the home put this huge addition on the back end of this house, and it was connected to essentially on the inside through a big opening, and it really wasn't done to quality inside when they did this addition. I don't know whether its family just needed space or what, but they didn't do a good job. I mean, the structure was fairly sound, but the quality wasn't there. You were going from a nice house to 1970s. It was one you ever see on those TVs where a home hasn't been touched since the 1970s? Well, essentially the inside of this house, it was one of the original owners, and the inside of this house hadn't been touched since the 1950s. Okay, so there was a lot of work to do on the inside, and that's one of the reasons that Kristy had to really leverage herself to the hilt, because there was a lot to do. What she did was she closed off the entryway to the house, so that excuse me, it made for a separate unit in and of itself. Has this nice little backyard area, and she turned it into an Airbnb. Let's just walk around here. We got a nice garage there, but she turned it into an Airbnb, and it went by, went by that name on the Airbnb. And so, nice little courtyard area. So it's really separate. You got kind of a separate area from the actual house. That's the garage right there. You can fit about 2 cars in it. So this is a nice home that she was managed to come by. But it had to be the interior of this. Essentially had to be taken down to the dirt. Literally, when we first, after she bought it and got started on that renovation, we happened to come here for a fall trip. Then we usually take a fall trip, and when we came here, literally you could see dirt and 1970s paneling. It was just an absolute disaster inside that she had to deal with, and you couldn't imagine. Again, it's night and day compared to the inside now. You couldn't imagine it being nice. I mean, it was just that much work that had to be done inside. But she managed to pull it off. But that meant essentially, again, like I said, she leveraged herself to the hilt. Her credit cards were taken down to the last dollar, really down to. I mean, it was incredible to see. Just one of those things you can't imagine. Yeah, we got a 2-car garage. That's the rear door to the Denver home that we come out of. And nice driveway. So once this is a rental, they'll have a nice driveway there. That's the rental car that we came in this time. So the renters will have access to that entire house, which is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. Plus, they'll have access to the garage, and John will stay on site for this home, living in the Airbnb portion. And hopefully, maybe down the line, the family will have that full access to this home again and treat it as what Kristy wanted. She wanted the family to have the Denver home and pay for the Denver home via using the back area as an Airbnb portion. Let's just walk out to the front one last time. That's her neighbors across the way. Look at the size of that house. I'm told that he's like a doctor on the island, or runs one of the hospitals or something. Kind of misty today. It does that here. And you got the famous oaks, because it didn't flood. The island lost a lot of oaks, of their famous oaks, especially in the lower portion of the island during Ike. The salt water stayed on the island in certain areas too long, and they lost a lot of trees. But Denver home, nice oaks, and Kristy's legacy.